No, you can't. No, you aren't. No, you don't. No, you won't. Those are the wonderful statements of encouragement that people love to give so often. Right? Suppose you say, you know what? I can sing. I could be a singer. I could be a good singer. I could become famous. People could listen to me. What do people say? No, you aren't. No, you can't. No, you won't. No, you don't. That's what people say. It's wonderful how they say it. But then, if in spite of this, if you don't listen to them or you basically just ignore them and don't even bring the subject up with people, or if you do, you just ignore them, and you go on and you get determined to do it, and you go in and you record some songs and manage to get them somehow distributed, if you're lucky, then people might actually listen to you and listen and think, hey, you know what? Might start appreciating. They might say, you know what? I think if you get the right conditions where you've got the right you got somebody producing it from production, and you got some good backup musicians, some good arrangements, some good songs, then you might fucking surprise everybody, who will never believe you if you just say to them, you know what, I think I could be a pretty good singer. No, you can't. No, you won't. No, you aren't. No, you don't. But then you go and you ignore those fucking people, and you get a record produced, and you get it promoted, and it starts getting played. Then people might start listening and start hearing the word, and they might say, you know what? That guy's pretty good. Depending on what you come up with. Some people might start appreciating and say, that guy's pretty good. I like him. I want to hear more of him. Then you start to get famous. Then you start getting well known. Then they start saying, oh yes, of course, he's great. Oh, we want to interview him and put him on his picture on the cover of our magazine and blah, 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 blah. And then suddenly your name has this magic commercial ring to it. And suddenly you're not just the ordinary little person you were that everybody was saying, oh, you never have, you can't, you are not, you cannot, you will not, you do not. Automatically dismiss you out of hand just because they've never heard of you. Suddenly people have heard of you. People who've never actually heard you get familiar with your name, and they hear, oh yes, he's good. Oh, I've heard good things about him. Oh yes, I've heard he's very good. Yes, I don't actually know what he's done, but I should get around to listening to it because everybody says it's good. And then people start listening to you because they've been told that you're good. And they start saying that, oh, they think he's a great singer. Oh yes. And then your feeling is, well, hold on a second. What about all those decades when people like you would have been telling me, oh, you can't sing. No, you don't. No, you can't. No, you aren't. No, you won't. You will not. You could not. That wouldn't happen. You could not. And then suddenly those very same people turn around to shift their opinion. And suddenly, oh yes, it's trendy to think that this guy's great. And then suddenly people say, oh, he's the greatest singer in the world. He's the greatest singer who ever lived. Really? Where were you before? Where were you people before when I was saying, you know, I could sing, but I didn't have a recordings contract. I didn't have backup musicians. And the response is, you will not. You cannot. And this has happened with many artists of all sorts, or even athletes, celebrities, but particularly with singers. You look at people like Elvis Presley, for instance. He ended up, when he got so famous, that he couldn't trust people's opinions because he was so hyped up that people would say he's great and scream for him, who wouldn't be screaming for him if he wasn't famous. But because he was famous, they were screaming for him, so he couldn't trust those people's opinions, and he ended up with what they called the Memphis Mafia, a little crew of people that had known him when he was in high school, before he was famous, because he felt these were the only people he could trust. These were the only people that weren't going to bullshit him. They were going to be straight with him because they weren't in awe of his great celebrity status. And that's just one example. Lots of people, they get to be famous and they realize they can't trust people's opinions because people get inflated, distorted perception of you once you become a celebrity. And they say, oh yes, of course that person's great. So, yeah, well, where were you before? Where were you before I got the record contract? When I said I could sing and people used to snicker and sneer and boo me off stage, that sort of thing. Where were you then? So you can't really trust people's opinions, and that's why it can be very damaging for somebody like Justin Bieber or Michael Jackson, who, from Miley Cyrus, from a very early age, is told, "Oh, you're so great. Oh, we love you. You're wonderful. You're the greatest." And they never get grounded. They never have anything to ground their own opinions of themselves. And that's what you see. The tragedy of Michael Jackson is that he was way off in this inflated self-image throughout his life. That's what killed him, pretty much. That's what totally fucked up his whole adulthood. Was he was in this inflated self-opinion where he presented himself as some kind of fucking demigod. Just look at every one of his fucking videos tries to present him as a demigod with superhuman powers. And he wasn't. He was just a poor, pathetic schmuck who never had a childhood. That was the tragedy of that Michael Jackson story. There's no way of having any kind of realistic self-assessment when you're in that situation, when you've been told you're the greatest from the time you were 10 years old and never had the opportunity to live a normal life. You have no grounding. You have no frame of reference to compare to be able to tell whether people are just cozying up to you because of you have this reputation. But would those same people have taken any interest in you if you weren't famous? That's the question. Well, if you don't get famous until you're 50 or 60 years old, on the one hand, sure, you may be missed out on a few decades. On the other hand, what you miss out on, you make up for by the amount of grounding. So you're well aware at that point that how people would perceive you if you weren't famous. It could happen, It could happen. And all the people that spent decades telling you, no, it couldn't. No, it wouldn't. No, it won't. No, you can't. No, you aren't. Well, you can have sort of the last laugh on those people, but it's not a very healthy or satisfying type of laugh. And those are the same people that would turn around and fawn all over you once you get famous.